Heavy D Storytelling. We are going to be reading a story today. As you can tell, it's New Year. Happy New Year, guys.
It's not New Year now.
Oh my,
It's the 4th.
Yeah, it's the 4th of January now. But, so, we are going to be reading the Bible first up. And then we are going to be doing, are we doing a synopsis? Yeah, we're doing a synopsis.
Sure.
And then we're doing the book you've been waiting for. Ben-Hur. We're almost done with the book.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, we're like halfway through.
Closer to that.
See you guys later. This is Heavy D.
Hi. So, I feel like it's a little dark here. Why is my corner dark? Just a minute. I feel like I'm in a shadow. Ooh, look at this. That's too much. Alright, that's a little better, I guess. Maybe this is... okay, well, I'll stop messing with it. So, we're going to read Ruth, chapter 2. Then we're going to read Ben-Hur. We're starting on book 5, chapter 3 today. It doesn't look dark. Okay, perfect. Yay! You look fine. Well, I don't know about that. But let's start with Ruth, chapter 2. This is the English Standard Version of the Bible. Now Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man of the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after him, in whose sight I shall find favor." And she said to her, "Go, my daughter." So she set out and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem. And he said to the reapers, "The Lord be with you." And they answered, "The Lord bless you." Then Boaz said to his young man who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose young woman is this?" And the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered, "She is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab." She said, "Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves after the reapers." So she came, and she has continued from early morning until now, except for a short rest. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Now listen, my daughter, do not go to glean in another field, or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they are reaping, and go after them. Have I not charged the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" Sorry, I lost... But Boaz answered her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Then she said, "I have found favor in your eyes, my lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your servant, though I am not one of your servants." And at mealtime Boaz said to her, "Come here and eat some bread and dip your morsel in the wine." So she sat beside the reapers, and he passed to her roasted grain, and she ate until she was satisfied, and she had some left over. When she rose to glean, Boaz instructed his young men, saying, "Let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not reproach her. And also pull out some of the bundles for her, and leave it for her to glean, and do not rebuke her." So she gleaned in the field until evening. Then she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up and went into the city. Her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. She also brought out and gave her what food she had left over after being satisfied. And her mother-in-law said to her, "Where did you glean today, and where have you worked? Blessed be the man who took notice of you." So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked, and said, "The man's name with whom I worked today is Boaz." And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "May he be blessed by the Lord, whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead." Naomi also said to her, "The man is a close relative of ours, one of our redeemers." And Ruth the Moabite said, "Besides, he said to me, 'You shall keep close by my young men until they have finished all my harvest.'" And Naomi said to Ruth her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, lest in another field you be assaulted." So she kept close to the young women of Boaz, gleaning until the end of the barley and wheat harvests, and she lived with her mother-in-law. And that is the end of Ruth chapter 2. Tomorrow we will read chapter 3. And the following day, not Wednesday, so I guess Thursday, we'll finish Ruth. And then on Friday, we're going to start another book from the New Testament. So, I need JJ to be quiet while we're reading. Would. And it's time for the synopsis. Here she comes.
So, in the last chapter, basically what happened was we found out that, what's his name? I forget.
Masala.
Yeah. No, the other guy.
Simonidis.
The Roman guy.
Masala.
Okay, yeah, it is. Okay, sorry, I'm getting names mixed up. So Masala, he knows that, he knows a general overview of what happened to Ben-Hur. So, and he knows where he is now. And then, that's basically what the update we got about him. And then, Ben-Hur, he's practicing for that chariot race thing. And he's got,
And he trained the horses, and he's not very good.
No, he's really good. And he didn't train the horses. Somebody else trained them. But, he's, like, he went over to this guy and...
But he went to the sheik and he said, "I need that chariot on day 1.
No.
Oh.
He didn't use the chariot at first.
Oh.
In fact, he walked first. And then everybody was like, okay, this guy is definitely not a Roman, because a Roman would be like, "Give me the chariot right now." And then, oh, hey, my kitty cat. She's right over there.
Squirrel!
It's gone. Okay, so, then after a few days, they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're so good at this." And yeah, so he's gotten pretty good, and then he has this plan to humiliate Masala after beating him at the race. And it has something to do with his chariot, Masala's chariot, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna sabotage. Right? From what it said, it might
Find
be.
out.
And that's about everything that happened. There might have
Pretty
been a
good.
few other things. Oh, that Egyptian person, Balthasar's daughter, she watched him for a little while at some point, right?
Okay.
And that's it from me. Hey, Kit Kat. Do you want to be seen on Facebook
No.
and YouTube?
No, the cat doesn't want to. And the cat doesn't want to attack me either.
Yes, she does.
Kimmy, take notes, is what Mrs. Granny Bro. Golly, all right, I'm done. Hi, I'm Heavy D. Hey, please like this video. I really, it means something to me. I get like a little ego boost if you like it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you appreciating me. Okay, so, sorry I'm cheesy. Okay, it's not easy being cheesy. Okay, all right. Chapter 3. The Arts of Cleopatra. Iris, the daughter of Balthazar, sends me with salutations and a message, said a servant to Ben-Hur, who was taking his ease in the tent. Give me the message. Would it please you to accompany her upon the lake? I will carry the answer myself. Tell her so. His shoes were brought him, and in a few minutes Ben-Hur sallied out to find the fair Egyptian. The shadow of the mountains was creeping over the orchard of palms in advance of night. Afar through the trees came the tinkling of sheep bells, the lowing of cattle, and the voices of the herdsmen bringing their charges home. Life at the orchard, it should be remembered, was in all respects as pastoral as life on the scantier meadows of the desert. Sheikh Ilderim had witnessed the exercises of the afternoon, being a repetition of those of the morning, after which he had gone to the city in answer to the invitation of Simonides. He might return in the night, but considering the immensity of the field to be talked over with his friend, it was hardly possible. Ben-Hur, thus left alone, had seen his horses cared for, cooled and purified himself in the lake. Do I need to get Easton? All right, just a minute.
I think he's finally settled. But
Oh, of course.
like 6 times.
Sorry about that. Okay, Sheikh Ilderim had witnessed the exercises of the afternoon, being a repetition of those of the morning, after which he had gone to the city in answer to the invitation of Simonides. He might return in the night, but, considering the immensity of the field to be talked over with his friend, it was hardly possible. Ben-Hur, thus left alone, had seen his horses cared for, cooled and purified himself in the lake, exchanged the field garb for his customary vestments, all white, as became a Sadducean of the pure blood, supped early, and, thanks to the strength of youth, was well recovered from the violent exertion he had undergone. It is neither wise nor honest to detract from beauty as a quality. There cannot be a refined soul insensible to its influence. The story of Pygmalion and his statue is as natural as it is poetical. Beauty is of itself a power, and it is now drawing Ben-Hur. The Egyptian was to him a wonderfully beautiful woman, beautiful of face, beautiful of form. In his thought she always appeared to him as he saw her at the fountain, and he felt the influence of her voice, sweeter because in tearful expression of gratitude to him, and of her eyes, the large, soft, black, almond-shaped eyes declarative of her race, eyes which looked more than lies in the supremest wealth of words to utter, and recurrences of the thought of her were returns just so frequent of a figure tall, slender, graceful, refined, wrapped in rich and floating drapery, wanting nothing but a fitting mind to make her like the Shulamite, and in the same sense terrible as an army with banners. In other words, as she returned to his fancy, the whole passionate Song of Solomon came with her, inspired by her presence. With this sentiment and that feeling, he was going to see if she actually justified them. It was not love that was taking him, but admiration and curiosity, which might be the heralds of love. The landing was a simple affair, consisting of a short stairway and a platform garnished by some lamp-posts. Yet at the top of the steps he paused, arrested by what he beheld. There was a shallop resting upon the clear water lightly as an eggshell. An Ethiop, the camel-driver of the Castalian fount, occupied the rower's place. His blackness intensified by a livery of shining white. All the boat aft was cushioned and carpeted with stuffs brilliant with Tyrian red. On the rudder seat sat the Egyptian herself, sunk in Indian shawls and a very vapor of most delicate veils and scarves. Her arms were bare to the shoulders, and not merely faultless in shape, they had the effect of compelling attention to them. Their pose, their action, their expression, the hands, the fingers even, seemed endowed with graces and meaning. Each was an object of beauty. The shoulders and neck were protected from the evening air by an ample scarf, which yet did not hide them. In the glance he gave her, Ben-Hur paid no attention to these details. There was simply an impression made upon him, and like strong light, it was a sensation, not a thing of sight or enumeration. Thy lips are like a thread of scarlet. Thy temples are like a piece of pomegranate within thy locks. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away, for lo, the winter is past. The rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in the land. I'm not sure what voice a turtle has, but there it is. Such was the impression she made upon him, translated into words. Come, she said, observing his stop. Come, or I shall think you a poor sailor. The red of his cheek deepened. Did she know anything of his life upon the sea? He descended to the platform at once. I was afraid, he said, as he took the vacant seat before her. Of what? Of sinking the boat, he replied, smiling. Wait until we are in deeper water, she said, giving a signal to the black, who dipped the oars, and they were off. If Love and Ben-Hur were enemies, the latter was never more at mercy. The Egyptian sat where he could not but see her, she whom he had already engrossed in memory as his ideal of the Shulamite. With her eyes giving light to his, the stars might come out, and he not see them, and so they did. The night might fall with unrelieved darkness everywhere else. Her look would make illumination for him. And then, as everybody knows, given youth and such companionship, there is no situation in which the fancy takes such complete control as upon tranquil waters under a calm night sky, warm with summer. It is so easy at such time to glide imperceptibly out of the commonplace into the ideal. Give me the rudder, he said. No, she replied. That were to reserve the relation. Did I not ask you to ride with me? I am indebted to you, and would begin payment. You may talk, and I will listen, or I will talk, and you will listen. That choice is yours. But it shall be mine to choose where we go, and the way thither. And where may that be? You are alarmed again. O fair Egyptian, I but asked you the first question of every captive. Call me Egypt. I would rather call you Iris. You may think of me by that name, but call me Egypt. Egypt is a country, and means many people. Yes, and such a country. I see. It is to Egypt we are going. Would we were, I would be so glad. She sighed as she spoke. You have no care for me, then, he said. Ah, by that I know you were never there. I never was. Oh, it is the land where there are no unhappy people, the desired of all the rest of the earth, the mother of all the gods, and therefore supremely blessed. There, O son of Aries, there the happy find increase of happiness, and the wretched, going, drink once in the sweet water of the sacred river, and laugh and sing, rejoicing like children. Are not the very poor with you there as elsewhere? The very poor in Egypt are the very simple in wants and ways, she replied. They have no wish beyond enough, and how little that is, a Greek or Roman cannot know. But I am neither Greek nor Roman, she laughed. I have a garden of roses, and in the midst of it is a tree, and its bloom is the richest of all. Whence came it, think you? From Persia, the home of the rose. No. From India, then? No. Ah, one of the isles of Greece. I will tell you, she said. A traveler found it perishing by the roadside on the plain of Rephaim. Oh, in Judea. I put it in the earth left bare by the receding Nile, and the soft south wind blew over the desert and nursed it, and the sun kissed it in pity. After which it could not else than grow and flourish. I stand in its shade now, and it thanks me with much perfume. As with the roses, so with the men of Israel. Where shall they reach perfection? But in Egypt. Moses was one of millions, but one of millions. Nay, there was a reader of dreams. Will you forget him? The friendly pharaohs are dead. Ah, yes, the river by which they dwelt sings to them in their tombs. Yet the same sun tempers the same air to the same people. Alexandria is but a Roman town. She has but exchanged scepters. Caesar took her from that of the sword, and in its place left that of learning. Go with me to the Bruchium, and I will show you the College of Nations, to the Seraphian, and see the perfection of architecture, to the library, and read the immortals, to the theatre, and hear the heroics of the Greeks and the Hindus, to the quay, and count the triumphs of commerce. Descend with me into the streets, O son of Areus, and when the philosophers have dispersed and taken with them the masters of all the arts, and all the gods have come their votaries, and nothing remains of the day but its pleasures, you shall hear the stories that have amused men from the beginning, and the songs which will never, never die. As he listened, Ben-Hur was carried back to the night, when in the summer house in Jerusalem his mother, in much the same poetry of patriotism, declaimed the departed glories of Israel. I see now why you wish to be called Egypt. Will you sing me a song if I call you by that name? I heard you last night. That was a hymn of the Nile, she answered, a lament which I sing when I would fancy I smell the breath of the desert, and hear the surge of the dear old river. Let me rather give you a piece of the Indian mind. When we get to Alexandria, I will take you to the corner of the street where you can hear it from the daughter of the Ganga, who taught it to me. Kapila, you should know, was one of the most revered of the Hindu sages. Then, as if it were a natural mode of expression, she began the song. Kapila. Kapila, Kapila, so young and true, I yearn for a glory like thine, and hail thee from battle to ask anew, can ever thy valor be mine? Kapila sat on his charger dun, a hero never so grave, who loveth all things, hath fear of none, 'tis love that maketh me brave. A woman gave me her soul one day, the soul of my soul to be alway. Thence came my valor to me, go try it, and see. Part 2. Kapila, Kapila, so old and grey, the queen is calling for me. But ere I go hence, I wish thou wouldst stay, how wisdom first came to thee. Kapila stood in his temple door, a priest in eremite guise. It did not come as men get their lore, 'tis faith that maketh me wise. A woman gave me her heart one day, the heart of my heart to be alway. Thence came my wisdom to me, go try it, and see. Ben-Hur had not time to express his thanks for the song before the keel of the boat grated upon the underlying sand, and, next moment, the bow ran upon the shore. A quick voyage, O Egypt, he cried, and a briefer stay, she replied, as, with a strong push, the black sent them shooting into the open water again. You will give me the rudder now? Oh, no, said she, laughing. To you, the chariot, to me, the boat. We are merely at the lake's end, and the lesson is that I must not sing any more. Having been to Egypt, let us now to the grove of Daphne. Without a song on the way, he said in deprecation, Let me tell me something of the Roman from whom you saved us today, she asked. The request struck Ben-Hur unpleasantly. I wish this were the Nile, he said evasively. The kings and queens, having slept so long, might come down from their tombs and ride with us. They were of the Colossi, and would sink our boat. The pygmies would be preferable, but tell me of the Roman. He is very wicked, is he not? I cannot say. Is he of a noble family and rich? I cannot speak of his riches. How beautiful his horses were, and the bed of his chariot was gold, and the wheels were ivory, and his audacity. The bystanders laughed as he rode by, they who were so nearly under his wheels. She laughed at the recollection. They were rabble, said Ben-Hur bitterly. He must be one of the monsters who are said to be growing up in Rome, Apollos ravenous as Cerberus. Does he reside in Antioch? He is of the east somewhere. Egypt would suit him better than Syria. Hardly, Ben-Hur replied. Cleopatra is dead. That instant the lamps burning before the door of the tent came into view. The door, she said, and then we have not been to Egypt. I have not seen Karnak or Philae or Abydos. This is not the Nile. I have but heard a song of India and been boating in a dream. Philae, Karnak, mourn rather than that you have not seen the Rameses at Abu Simbel, looking at which makes it so easy to think of God, the maker of the heavens and earth. Or why should you mourn at all? Let us go on to the river, and if I cannot sing, she laughed, because I have said I would not, yet I can tell you the stories of Egypt. Abu Simbel is they have the monuments of the pharaohs carved into the stone in the hillside in Aswan at the First Cataract. That's where that is. Go on, till morning comes, and the evening, and the next morning, he said vehemently. Of what shall my stories be? Of the mathematicians? Oh, no. Of the philosophers? No, no. Of the magicians and genii? If you will. Of war? Yes. Of love? Yes. I will tell you a cure for love. It is the story of a queen. Listen reverently. The papyrus from which it was taken by the priests of Philae was wrested from the hand of the heroine herself. It is correct in form and must be true. Nene-Hofra. Part 1. There is no parallelism in human lives. No life runs a straight line. The most perfect life develops as a circle and terminates in its beginning, making it impossible to say, this is the commencement, that the end. Perfect lives are the treasures of God. Of great days he wears them on the ring finger of his heart hand. Part 2. Nene-Hofra dwelt in a house close by Assuan, yet closer to the First Cataract. So close, indeed, that the sound of the eternal battle waged there between river and rocks was of the place apart. She grew in beauty day by day, so that it was said of her, as of the poppies in her father's garden, what will she not be in the time of blooming? Each year of her life was the beginning of a new song more delightful than any of those which went before. Child was she of a marriage between the north bounded by the sea, and the south bounded by the desert, beyond the Luna mountains, and one gave her its passion, the other its genius. So when they beheld her, both laughed, saying, not merely she is mine, but generously, ha 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 ha, she is ours. All excellences in nature contributed to her perfection, and rejoiced in her presence. Did she come or go? The birds ruffled their wings in greeting. The unruly winds sank to cooling zephyrs. The white lotus rose from the water's depth to look at her. The solemn river loitered on its way. The palm trees, nodding, shook all their plumes, and they seemed to say, this one I gave her of my grace, that I gave her of my brightness, the other I gave her of my purity, and so each as it had a virtue to give. At 12, Nenehofra was the delight of Esuen. At 16, the fame of her beauty was universal. At 20, there was never a day which did not bring to her door princes of the desert on swift camels, and lords of Egypt in gilded barges, and going away disconsolate, they reported everywhere, I have seen her, and she is not a woman, but Athor herself. Part 3. Now of the 330 successors of good King Menes, 18 were Ethiopians, of whom Oretes was 110 years old. He had reigned 76 years. Under him the people thrived, and the land groaned with fatness and plenty. He practiced wisdom, because having seen so much, he knew what it was. He dwelt in Memphis, having there his principal palace, his arsenals, and his treasure house. Frequently he went down to Butus to talk with Latona. The wife of the good king died. Too old was she for perfect embalmment, yet he loved her, and mourned as the inconsolable, seeing which a Colchite presumed one day to speak to him. O Oretes, I am astonished that one so wise and great should not know how to cure a sorrow like this. Tell me a cure, said the king. 3 times the Colchite kissed the floor, and then he replied, knowing the dead could not hear him. An Esuen lives, Nenehofra, beautiful as Athor the beautiful. Send for her. She has refused all the lords and princes, and I know not how many kings. But who can say no to Oretes? Nenehofra descended the Nile. This is part 4. Nenehofra descended the Nile in a barge richer than any ever before seen, attended by an army in barges, each but a little less fine, all Nubia and Egypt, and a myriad from Libya, and a host of troglodytes, and not a few Macrobi, from beyond the mountains of the moon, lined the tented shores to see the cortege pass, wafted by perfumed winds and golden oars. Through a dromos of sphinxes and couchant double-winged lions she was borne, and set down before Oretes, sitting on a throne specially erected at the sculptured pylon of the palace. He raised her up, gave her place by his side, clasped the Uraeus upon her arm, kissed her, and Nenehofra was queen of all queens. That was not enough for the wise Oretes. He wanted love, and a queen happy in his love. So he dealt with her tenderly, showing her his possessions, cities, palaces, people, his armies, his ships, and with his own hand he led her through his treasure house, saying, O Nenehofra, but kiss me in love, and they are all thine. And thinking she could be happy if she was not then, she kissed him once, twice, thrice, kissed him thrice, his 110 years notwithstanding. The first year she was happy, and it was very short. The 3rd year she was wretched, and it was very long. Then she was enlightened, that which she thought love of Oretes was only days of his power. Well, for her had the days endured. Her spirits deserted her. She had long spells of tears, and her women could not remember when they had heard her laugh. Of the roses on her cheeks only ashes remained. She languished and faded gradually but certainly. Some said she was haunted by the Erinyes for cruelty to a lover, others that she was stricken by some god envious of Oretes. Whatever the cause of her decline, the charms of the magicians availed not to restore her, and the prescript of the doctor was equally without virtue. Nenehofra was given over to die. Oretes chose a crypt Aretis, choose a crypt for her up in the tombs of the queens, and calling the master sculptors and painters to Memphis, he set them to work upon designs more elaborate than any even in the great galleries of the dead kings. O thou beautiful as Hathor herself, my queen, said the king, whose 113 years did not lessen his ardor as a lover. Tell me, I pray, the ailment of which, alas, thou art so certainly perishing before my eyes. You will not love me any more if I tell you, she said, in doubt and fear. Not love you? I will love you the more. I swear it by the genie of Amenti. By the eye of Osiris, I swear it. Speak, he cried, passionate as a lover, authoritative as a king. Here, then, she said, there is an anchorite, the oldest and holiest of his class, in a cave near Essuan. His name is Menopha. He was my teacher and guardian. Send for him, O Aretis, and he will tell you that you seek to know that you seek to know. He will also help you find the cure for my affliction. Aretis arose, rejoicing. He went away in spirit 100 years younger than when he had came. Part 5. Speak, said Aretis to Menopha in the palace at Memphis. And Menopha replied, Most mighty king, if you were young, I should not answer, because I am yet pleased with life as it is. I will say the queen, like any other mortal, is paying the penalty of a crime. A crime, exclaimed Aretis angrily. Menopha bowed very low, yes, to herself. I am not in the mood for riddles, said the king. What I say is not a riddle, as you shall hear. Ninihofra grew up under my eyes and confided every incident of her life to me, among others that she loved the son of her father's gardener, Barbec by name. Aretis frowned, strangely enough, began to dissipate. With that love in her heart, O king, she came to you. Of that love she is dying. Where is the gardener's son now? Asked Aretis. In Essuan. The king went out and gave 2 orders. To one, Oris, he said, Go to Essuan and bring hither a youth named Barbec. You will find him in the garden of the queen's father. To another, assemble workmen and cattle and tools, and construct for me in Lake Chemis an island which, though laden with a temple, a palace, and a garden, and all manner of trees bearing fruit, and all manner of vines, shall nevertheless float about as the winds may blow it. Make this island, and let it be fully furnished by the time the moon begins to wane. Then to the queen he said, Be of cheer. I know all, and have sent for Barbec. Ninihofra kissed his hands. You shall have him to yourself, and he you to himself, nor shall any disturb your loves for a year. She kissed his feet. He raised her and kissed her in return, and the rose came back to her cheeks, the scarlet to her lips, and the laughter to his heart. I think this is a picture of Iris telling a story to Ben-Hur. So, all right. Part 6. For 1 year, Ninihofra and Barbec the gardener floated as the winds blew on the island of Chemis, which became one of the wonders of the world. Never a home of love more beautiful. 1 year, seeing no one and existing for no one but themselves. Then she returned in state to the palace in Memphis. Now whom lovest thou best? Asked the king. She kissed his cheek and said, Take me back, O good king, for I am cured. Aretis laughed none the worse that moment of his 114 years. Then it is true, as Menopha said, Ha ha ha! It is true, the cure of love is love. Even so, she replied. Suddenly his manner changed and his look became terrible. I did not find it so, he said. She shrank affrighted. Thou guilty, he continued. Thy offense to Aretis, the man, he forgives. But thy offense to Aretis, the king, remains to be punished. She cast herself at his feet. Hush, he cried. Thou art dead. He clapped his hands, and a terrible procession came in, a procession of parachists, or embalmers, each with some implement or material of his loathsome art. The king pointed to Nenehofra. She is dead. Do thy work well. Nenehofra the beautiful, after 72 days, was carried to the crypt chosen for her the year before, and laid with her queenly predecessors, yet there was no funeral procession in her honor across the sacred lake. At the conclusion of the story, Ben-Hur was sitting at the Egyptian's feet, and her hand upon the tiller was covered by his hand. Menophah was wrong, he said. How? Love lives by loving. Then there is no cure for it? Yes. Aretus found the cure. What was it? Death. You are a good listener, O son of Areus. And so, with conversation and stories, they whiled the hours away, and they stepped ashore. As they stepped ashore, she said, Tomorrow we go to the city. But you will be at the games, he asked. Oh, yes. I will send you my colors. With that, they separated. Chapter 4. Messala on guard. Ilderim returned to the Dower next day about the 3rd hour. As he dismounted, a man whom he recognized as of his own tribe came to him and said, O Sheik, I was bidden give thee this package, with request that thou read it at once. If there be answer, I was to wait thy pleasure. Ilderim gave the package immediate attention. The seal was already broken. The address ran to Valerius Gratus at Caesarea. Abaddon, take him, growled the sheik at discovering a letter in Latin. Had the missive been in Greek or Arabic, he could have read it. As it was, the utmost he could make out was the signature in bold Roman letters, Messala, whereat his eyes twinkled. Where is the young Jew? He asked. In the field with the horses, a servant replied. The sheik replaced the papyrus in its envelopes, and, tucking the package under his girdle, remounted the horse. That moment a stranger made his appearance, coming apparently from the city. I am looking for Sheik Ilderim, surnamed the Generous, the stranger said. His language and attire bespoke him a Roman. What he could not read yet, he yet could speak. So the old Arab answered with dignity, I am Sheik Ilderim. The man's eyes fell. He raised them again and said with forced composure, I heard you had need of a driver for the games. Ilderim's lip, under the white moustache, curled contemptuously. Go thy way, he said. I have a driver. He turned to ride away, but the man, lingering, spoke again. Sheik, I am a lover of horses, and they say you have the most beautiful in the world. The old man was touched. He drew rein, as if of the point of yielding to the flattery, but finally replied, Not today, not today. Some other time I will show them to you. I am too busy just now. He rode to the field while the stranger betook himself to town, again with a smiling countenance. He had accomplished his mission, and every day thereafter, down to the great day of the games, a man, sometimes 2 or 3 men, came to the sheik at the orchard, pretending to seek an engagement as driver. In such manner, Messala kept watch over Ben-Hur. Chapter 5 is called Ilderim and Ben-Hur Deliberate. The first word is the, and let's see how long it is, whether or not we have time for it. It is, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. What's the time? Who says we go for it?
Go for it.
Mom says go for it. Kimmy says go for it. Nini Hofra. No, it's Nene. It's N-E-N-E. Not... Yeah, that's a terrible story. I'm sorry that you don't like it. Nene Hofra. Okay. Chapter 5. Sorry if I was mispronouncing it before, so that's my bad. Chapter 5. Ilderim and Ben-Hur deliberate. The sheik waited, well satisfied, until Ben-Hur drew his horses off the field for the forenoon. Well satisfied, for he had seen them, after being put through all the other paces, run full speed in such manner that it did not seem there were one the slowest, and another the fastest. Run, in other words, as if the four were one. This afternoon, O Sheik, I will give Sirius back to you. Ben-Hur patted the neck of the old horse as he spoke. I will give him back and take to the chariot. So soon? Ilderim asked. With such as these, good Sheik, 1 day suffices. They are not afraid. They have a man's intelligence, and they love the exercise. This one, he shook the rein over the back of the youngest of the four. You called him Aldebaran, I believe, is the swiftest. In once round a stadium, he would lead the others thrice his length. Ilderim pulled his beard and said with twinkling eyes, Aldebaran is the swiftest, but what of the slowest? This is he. Ben-Hur shook the rein over Antares. This is he, but he will win, for, look you, Sheik, he will run his utmost all day, and as the sun goes down he will reach his swiftest. Right again, said Ilderim. But I have but one fear, O Sheik. The Sheik became doubly serious. In his greed of triumph, a Roman cannot keep honor pure. In the games, all of them, mark you, their tricks are infinite. In chariot racing, their knavery extends to everything, from horse to driver, from driver to master. Wherefore, good Sheik, look well to all thou hast. From this till the trial is over, let no stranger so much as see the horses. Would you be perfectly safe? Do more. Keep watch over them with armed hand as well as sleepless eye. Then I will have no fear of the end. At the door of the tent they dismounted. What you say shall be attended to. By the splendor of God, no hand shall come near them, except it belong to one of the faithful. Tonight I will set watches. But, son of Arius, Ilderim drew forth the package and opened it slowly while they walked to the divan and seated themselves. Son of Arius, see thou here and help me with thy Latin. Because he didn't have Google Translate, that's his problem. See, he's got the Amazon package, he opened it, but he doesn't have Google Translate, so now he needs Ben-Hur to help him. He passed the dispatch to Ben-Hur. There, read, and read aloud, rendering what thou findest into the tongue of thy fathers. Latin is an abomination. Ben-Hur was in good spirits and began the reading carelessly. Messala to Gratus. He paused. A premonition drove the blood to his heart. Ilderim observed his agitation. Well, I am waiting. Ben-Hur prayed pardon and recommended the paper, which, it is sufficient to say, was one of the duplicates of the letter dispatched so carefully to Gratus by Messala the morning after the revel in the palace. The paragraphs in the beginning were remarkable only as proof that the writer had not outgrown his habit of mockery. When they were past, and the reader came to the parts intended to refresh the memory of Gratus, his voice trembled, and twice he stopped to regain his self-control. By a strong effort he continued, I recall further, he read, that thou didst make disposition of the family of her. There the reader again paused and drew a long breath. Both of us, at the time, supposing the plan hit upon to be the most effective possible for the purposes in view, which were silence and delivery over to inevitable but natural death. Here Ben-Hur broke down utterly. The paper fell from his hands, and he covered his face. They are dead. Dead! I alone am left. The Sheik had been a silent but not unsympathetic witness of the young man's suffering. Now he arose and said, Son of Arius, it is for me to beg thy pardon. Read the paper by thyself. When thou art strong enough to give the rest of it to me, send word, and I will return. He went out of the tent, and nothing in all his life became him better. Ben-Hur flung himself on the divan and gave way to his feelings. When somewhat recovered, he recollected that a portion of the letter remained unread, and, taking it up, he resumed the reading. Thou wilt remember, the missive ran, what thou didst with the mother and sister of the malefactor, yet if now I yield to a desire to learn if they be living or dead. Ben-Hur started and read again, and then again, and at last into exclamation, He does not know they are dead. He does not know it. Blessed be the name of the Lord. There is yet hope. He finished the sentence and was strengthened by it, and went on bravely to the end of the letter. They are not dead, he said after reflection. They are not dead, or he would have heard of it. A second reading, more careful than the first, confirmed him in the opinion. Then he sent for the sheik. In coming to your hospitable tent, O sheik, he said calmly, when the Arab was seated and they were alone, it was not in my mind to speak of myself further than to assure you I had sufficient training to be entrusted with your horses. It wouldn't make sense for him to be instructed with horses. I decline to tell you my history, but the chances which have sent this paper to my hand and given it to me to be read are so strange that I feel bidden to trust you with everything, and I am the more inclined to do so by knowledge here conveyed that we are both of us threatened by the same enemy, against whom it is needful that we make common cause. I will read the letter and give you explanation, after which you will not wonder I was so moved. If you thought me weak or childish, you will then excuse me. The sheik held his peace, listening closely until Ben-Hur came to the paragraph in which he was particularly mentioned. I saw the Jew yesterday in the grove of Daphne. So ran the part. And if he be not there now, he is certainly in the neighborhood, making it easy for me to keep him in eye. Indeed, wert thou to ask me where he is now, I should say with the most positive assurance, he is to be found at the old orchard of palms. Ah, exclaimed Ilderim, in such a tone one might hardly say he was more surprised than angry. At the same time he clutched his beard. At the old orchard of palms, Ben-Hur repeated, under the tent of that traitor Sheik Ilderim. Traitor? I? The old man cried in his shrillest tone, while lip and beard curled with ire, and on his forehead and neck the veins swelled and beat as they would burst. Yet a moment, Sheik, said Ben-Hur with deprecatory gesture. Such is Messala's opinion of you. Hear his threat. And he read on, under the tent of the traitor Sheik Ilderim, who cannot long escape our strong hand, be not surprised if Maxentius, as his first measure, places the Arab on ship for forwarding to Rome. To Rome? Me, Ilderim, Sheik of 10,000 horsemen, with spears, me to Rome? He leapt rather than rose to his feet, his arms outstretched, his fingers spread and curved like claws, his eyes glittering like a serpent's. Oh, nay, by all the gods except of Rome! When shall this insolence end? A free man am I. Free are my people. Must we die slaves? Or worse, must I live a dog, crawling to a master's feet? Must I lick his hand, lest he lash me? What is mine is not mine. I am not my own. For breath of body I must be beholden to a Roman. Oh, if I were young again. Oh, could I shake off 20 years, or 10, or 5. He ground his teeth and shook his hands overhead. Then, under the impulse of another idea, he walked away and back again to Ben-Hur swiftly, and caught his shoulder with a strong grasp. If I were as thou, O son of Ares, as young, as strong, as practiced in arms, if I had a motive hissing me to revenge, a motive like thine, great enough to make my hate holy, away with disguise on thy part and on mine. Son of her, I say! At that name all the currents of Ben-Hur's blood stopped, surprised, Bewildered, he gazed into the Arab's eyes, now close to his and fiercely bright. Son of her, I say, were I as thou with half thy wrongs, bearing about with my memories like thine, I would not, I could not rest. Never pausing, his words following each other torrent-like, the old man swept on. To all my grievances I would add to all my grievances I would add those of the world, and devote myself to vengeance. From land to land I would go, firing all mankind. No war for freedom but should find me engaged. No battle against Rome in which I would not bear a part. I would turn Parthian. I could not better if men failed me still. I would not give over the effort. Ha, ha, ha! By the splendor of God, I would herd with wolves and make friends of the lions and tigers in hopes of marshaling them against the common enemy. I would use every weapon, so my victims were Romans. I would rejoice in the slaughter. Quarter I would not ask, quarter I would not give. To the flames everything Roman, to the sword every Roman born. Of knights I would pray the gods, the good and the bad alike, to lend me their special terrors, tempests, drought, heat, cold, and all the nameless poisons they let loose in the air, all the thousand things of which men die on sea and on land. Oh, I could not sleep, I... The sheik stopped for want of breath, panting, wringing his hands, and sooth to say, of all the passionate burst Ben-Hur retained but a vague impression wrought by fiery eyes, a piercing voice, and a rage too intense for coherent expression. For the first time in years, the desolate youth heard himself addressed by his proper name. One man at least knew him, and acknowledged it without demand of identity, and he an Arab fresh from the desert. How came the man by his knowledge? The letter? No. It told the cruelties from which his family had suffered. It told the story of his own misfortunes, but it did not say he was the very victim whose escape from doom was the theme of the heartless narrative. That was the point of explanation. He had notified the sheik would follow the reading of the letter. He was pleased and thrilled with hope restored, yet kept an air of calmness. Good sheik, tell me how you came by this letter. My people keep the roads between cities, Ilderim answered bluntly. They took it from a courier. Are they known to be thy people? No. To the world they are robbers, whom it is mine to catch and slay. Again, sheik, you call me son of Hur, my father's name. I did not think myself known to a person on earth. How came you by the knowledge? Ilderim hesitated, but, rallying, he answered, I know you, yet I am not free to tell you more. Someone holds you in restraint. The sheik closed his mouth and walked away, but, observing Ben-Hur's disappointment, he came back and said, Let us say no more about the matter just now. I will go to town. When I return, I may talk to you fully. Give me the letter. Ilderim rolled the papyrus carefully, restored it to its envelopes, and became once more all energy. What sayest thou? He asked, while waiting for his horse and retinue. I told what I would do, were I thou, and thou hast made no answer. I intended to answer, sheik, and I will. Ben-Hur's countenance and voice changed with the feeling invoked. All thou hast said I will do, all at least in the power of a man. I devoted myself to vengeance long ago. Every hour of the 5 years past I have lived with no other thought. I have taken no respite. I have had no pleasures of youth. The blandishments of Rome were not for me. I wanted her to educate me for revenge. I resorted to her most famous masters and professors, not those of rhetoric or philosophy, alas. I had no time for them. The arts essential to a fighting man were my desire. I associated with gladiators and with winners of prizes in the circus, and they were my teachers. The drill masters in the great camp accepted me as a scholar and were proud of my attainments in their line. O Sheik, I am a soldier, but the things of which I dream require me to be a captain. With that thought, I have taken part in the campaign against the Parthians. When it is over, then, if the Lord spare my life and strength, then," he raised his clenched hand and spoke vehemently, "then I will be an enemy Roman taught in all things. Then Rome shall account to me in Roman lives for her ills. You have my answer, Sheik." Ilderim put an arm over his shoulder and kissed him, saying passionately, "If thy God favor thee not, son of Hur, it is because he is dead. Take thou this from me, sworn to, if so thy preference run, thou shalt have my hands and their fullness, men, horses, camels, and the desert for preparation. I swear it. For the present, enough. Thou shalt see or hear from me before night." Turning abruptly off, the sheik was speedily on the road to the city. Chapter 6 is called Training the Four, and we'll read that one tomorrow. The first word is the. Hope you're enjoying this story. Got a little heated there. It's all right. It's all right. We're all good. We should be able to get at least 2, maybe 3 chapters tomorrow. So, the third chapter is a little bit longer, but I hope so. All right. Hope you're enjoying the story. Ben-Hur, one of my favorites. I hope it's one of yours also. God bless everybody. I wish you all well, and we will see you again next time. All right. Thanks. God bless. Bye.